Hello. Hi, hello. Very good afternoon for all of you joined live. This is my small effort. I will be bringing some lessons on biochemistry for you guys. The main objective of the video is to make sure that you understand the concepts of biochemistry and also learn more about how to understand, analyze, and go deep into the concepts of biochemistry. That's the main idea. So let's get started. Biochemistry is one of the finest branch of science, that too, especially the life sciences. Maybe some of you know very well that life science is classically divided into botany and zoology. Only those two are not the only branches of life sciences, but also you can expand them for microbiology, biotechnology, and also biochemistry, immunology, so on and so forth. But I believe biochemistry is one such branch of biology where you can have all the domains of life sciences, which comes together to form more unique and multidisciplinary aspect of life sciences. Coming to the fundamental question, what is biochemistry? So I will give you a definition which is very simple. Biochemistry is nothing but the chemical reactions that happens inside a cell. So basically anything that happens inside the cell, if it includes any chemicals, that means it's biochemistry. So the major aspect in biochemistry is it involves all the organic compounds, non-toxic organic compounds in it. So basically, imagine a cell, all the reactions that's happening in and around the cell, which includes carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. These forms basically the basic fundamental elements that involved in the biochemical reactions. So I also give you there are possibility that phosphorus, sulfur can also be involved in the reactions, but for the very basic understanding, it's only carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. In case if it involves anything else, as I mentioned, phosphorus or sulfur, you can consider them as bioinorganic, but still it's biochemistry. I will also give you a couple of other examples how biochemistry works. For example, if you take a cell, how the cells get the energy, that's through glucose, it's biochemistry. If you think how cell communicates with another cell, again, it's biochemistry and biochemical reactions. If you think, oh, by the way, thinking itself is also one of the major aspect of biochemistry, which comes under neurobiology. If you go with heartbeat, muscle movement, digestion, ingestion, constipation, pain, so anything you consider in a biological system which is actually through a biochemical reaction. So just to give you broader perspective, furthermore broader perspective of biochemistry, in case if you think of plants, even plants also has a lot of biochemical reactions. Photosynthesis, by the way, it's a classical example of biochemical reaction. If you think of blooming of flowers, it's also a biochemical reaction. Ripening of fruits is also a classical example for the biochemistry. If you look at your household things, for example, maybe if you prepare a breakfast, popularly in South India, we have idli, vada, dosa, everything. All these where we use a particular batter which is fermented overnight. The fermentation process is also biochemistry. One thing is you may think fermentation is not happening inside the cell, but no, it is happening inside the cell because of the microorganisms. So again, it is a biochemistry. So maybe I will also give you a bit more detailed idea about the biochemistry. If you think of biochemistry, you don't have to restrict yourself only to humans. You can also consider from very minute microorganisms, you can even consider viruses till the humans. So all the living organisms which performs all the lively reactions can be considered as biochemistry. So if you look at, as I already mentioned, that carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen are the major elements which comes into picture for the biochemical reaction. Don't forget, all these elements individually cannot perform biochemical reaction. Rather, they form molecules Those molecule in turn forms complex molecules, and these complex molecules, along with several polymers, monomers, can perform a whole biochemical reaction inside a cell. So maybe I will go a bit deeper into the topic. Maybe I will not show you any slides today. Maybe let's restrict today's lesson only for the fact that we understand what is biochemistry and how we can understand it. Maybe in the future videos, I will come up with some presentations and everything. So as I was mentioning, so if you look at biochemistry, as I said, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, when they form a molecule together, they may give rise to carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, vitamins, or any other components, for example, glycogen, which is a monomer or polymer of glucose itself. So, if you take these individual mega blocks of biomolecules, which we basically call biomolecules, mega blocks of biomolecules, then they may vary in their function compared to their individual units. Let me give you an example. If you think of glucose, it has a different function. The same glucose combined together, intertwined with each other to form a longer molecule of glycogen, can have an entirely different function in the cell. So that's how these individual biomolecules, when they are in their original state, they have a different function. When they are with other biomolecules, they may have a different role altogether. So let me again come back to the basics of biochemistry. When I was talking, I said all the chemical reactions that happens inside a cell is biochemistry. What about things which happens outside the cell? We have something called extracellular matrix, which is literally a component between two cells. A lot of reaction happens even in these extracellular matrix. So let me give you an example. If you think of nerves, so one nerve communicate with another nerve using a specific signaling a molecule called neurotransmitters. These are also the product of biochemical reaction that happens inside a neuron, which will be secreted out. These secretions are taken up by another neuron, and thereby they can communicate with each other. So maybe you have all done during these your college days or school days, you used to write a chart and used to throw it. So neurons also does the same thing. It throws the signal in the form of chemicals. That's how they can communicate with each other. So just to give you more idea about how these chemical reactions are taking place inside the cell, basically it is because of the stimulus. When you're hungry, you want to eat something. So how do you get to know that you have to eat? The cells, different cells, can respond to the lack of energy or lack of availability of the glucose, and it sends a message to brain saying that I am running out of glucose. And then brain creates a signal in turn, and it creates the hunger thrust. That's how you get to know you're hungry and you start to eat. These signals may not be same with different individuals. Maybe some people can withstand their hunger for a longer time, but some may not be able to do that. So this is also one of the uniqueness of biochemistry. The biochemical reactions are not entirely the same for all the individuals. It differs drastically among individuals. So I will also maybe give you a bit more details. For example, if you think about some of the other aspects, let's say, for example, if you're doing a research, in case of research, even though you are doing microbiology research or maybe you're doing biotechnology research, the fundamentals of biochemistry plays a very significant role. If you are performing a biochemical test, for example, diagnostics, if you want to run a diagnostic center, the most important thing what you need to know is all the biochemical analysis, especially the principles. So how do you understand these principles? For example, if you think of, let's say, liver function test, if you perform liver function test, you basically look for LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, triglycerides, and you can also do some scans. But do you know the biochemistry behind all these tests? Maybe not. So these tests actually involves maybe biochemical reactions or enzymatic reactions to come to a common conclusion. So just to give you a bit more detailed idea about the biochemistry applications, drug industry uses biochemistry a lot. So before you market any drugs, you need to know how these drugs can be metabolized, how they can cause the byproducts after the metabolic processes. So these are also very important, so for which you need the stronger biochemistry knowledge. Let's say if you want to do an oncology research, for example cancer research, so where also biochemistry comes into picture, and also it's very important to understand the overview of biochemical pathways that happens in a cancer cell, which are completely different than the normal cells. So biochemistry is very, very important. If you look for more details, maybe you can also consider of understanding biochemistry in two terms. So first thing is micromolecules and macromolecules. I already touched upon these micromolecules back then, saying that glucose, sorry, carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, lipids, these are also macromolecules. I forgot one more aspect. They are nucleic acids. So nucleic acids are basically the ones which carry the genetic material from one generation to another. Need not to be from generation, also from one cell to another. So we can see these DNA materials in almost all the organisms. Even viruses do have these. So if you look into the integrity of these genomic material, they remain constant for generations. This is because of tighter biochemical reactions that are happening inside the cell. So maybe I will give you another definition of biochemistry. It's very well written on an AI platform, which says biochemistry is simply the study of chemical reactions that makes life possible. That's what I said. All the biochemical reactions that are happening inside a cell is biochemistry. Maybe I will also give you a couple of other details. So what happens if a biochemical reaction slows down, or what if the biochemical reaction is not efficient? You can consider the biochemical reactions are not efficient, maybe because you have a fever. The question is why biochemical reaction slows down during fever. Again, here also the uh, beauty of biochemistry is that is these are exceptionally specific reactions. So in case if your body temperature is little more than 37, which is 38 or 39, which is feverish, so then the enzymes cannot function well. So as you all maybe know, all enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. So here proteins play a very significant role in these biochemical reactions. If these enzymes are not functioning well, maybe again because of fever, then the biochemical reaction slows down dramatically, as a result of which you feel very fatigued, you lay down for a couple of days, take antipyretics, so on and so forth. So here is the mechanism how the biochemistry works. I will also give you a couple of other details. For example, what happens if you have a disease? So how do body communicates? It gives pain. There are some receptors called nociceptors which induces pain. So how do you get to know you are getting sleep? Because there is a sleeping hormone which is called serotonin and melatonin. These two controls the sleep cycle. So they help you to get good sleep and also to keep you active, by the way. If you think of that, some people can stay awake with coffee and tea because caffeine acts on these sleeping hormone receptors. That's how some people cannot sleep. However, even if you have coffee and tea, some people will get sleep very easily because they have lesser impact of caffeine on their sleeping hormones. So these aspects decides how the biochemistry is, why biochemistry is important, and how you can understand better. So from next video onwards, I have plans to make videos on biochemistry. I will use a couple of books. Maybe you can also refer to the same books. So one is Principle of Biochemistry by Leninger, which is an exceptionally good book. So you can follow that. I will use this book for my next teaching sessions. So second one, you can also use Voigt and Voigt. It is starts with VOET. You can pronounce it however you want. So that's the second. Third book is Stryer Biochemistry, which is also very good, and you can use that as well. So we will continue with these live sessions every day as and when I get free time, and we will work on the deeper concepts of biochemistry, and we will learn about how to go about. And last but not least, I also have plans to make some research paper analysis. So we will take up one classical biochemistry paper and we will come and discuss it, how it works, why it works, and um, how the authors are thinking and what's the rationale behind doing those experiments. And most important thing is how the interpretation of data is done. So we will go through these aspects and we will make sure that the sessions are informative. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.